CEO threw the single dad out of the boardroom. He cancelled her $500 million contract within the hour. The moment Victoria Hale pointed her finger and screamed at him in front of the entire boardroom, she had no idea she had just destroyed her own company. She didn't know the quiet man standing across from her, coffee cup in hand, was the one person who could end her career with a single phone call. She thought she was throwing out a nobody. She was about to learn the most expensive lesson of her life. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that the quiet ones are often the strongest ones, hit that like button right now, drop a comment below, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so you never miss a story like this one. Marcus Reed had walked into that boardroom 40 minutes earlier expecting a routine vendor meeting. He was there representing a logistics firm his company had partnered with for years, a firm he had built from nothing after his wife passed away and left him alone to raise their 6-year-old daughter, Emma. Marcus wasn't flashy. He drove a modest car, wore the same 3 shirts on rotation, and never once mentioned that his firm had quietly become one of the most trusted logistics partners for half the Fortune 500. He liked it that way. He liked being underestimated. It gave him room to watch people's true colors show. And Victoria Hale showed hers fast. She was the CEO of Holbrook Industries, a woman who had clawed her way to the top of a cutthroat industry and never let anyone forget it. She ran meetings like battles, and she expected everyone in that room, employees and partners alike, to bow to her tone. That morning, a shipment delay outside of anyone's control had cost her firm a minor deal, and she needed someone to blame. Marcus, sitting quietly with his coffee, taking notes, became her target. She stood up, pointed her finger inches from his face, and told him he was finished, that his firm would never work with her company again, and that he could get out of her boardroom before she called security. The room went silent. 2 junior executives covered their mouths in shock. A young analyst near the window nearly dropped her folder. Nobody said a word in his defense, because nobody wanted to be her next target. Marcus didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at her, nodded once, picked up his coffee, and walked out without saying a single word. What Victoria didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Marcus wasn't just a vendor representative. He was the sole owner of Reed Freight Solutions, and buried inside the contract Holbrook Industries had signed 8 months earlier was a single clause, one Marcus himself had insisted on during negotiations. It gave him personal authority to terminate the agreement immediately, without penalty, if any representative of his company was treated with what the contract called unprofessional hostility in an official business setting. At the time, his lawyer thought it was an odd request. Marcus had simply said he'd learned the hard way that some people only respect you once you take something away from them. He sat in his car in the parking garage for exactly 11 minutes. He didn't cry. He didn't call anyone in anger. He thought about Emma, asleep that morning when he left, her small drawing of the 2 of them taped to his dashboard, a stick figure man and a stick figure girl holding hands under a crayon sun. He thought about the years he had spent building his company from a single delivery van into an operation with 300 employees, also his daughter would never know what it felt like to be looked down on the way he had just been looked down on. Then he opened his laptop, logged into the company portal, and typed a short, formal email terminating the $500 million contract between Reed Freight Solutions and Holbrook Industries, effective immediately. By the time Victoria returned to her office that afternoon, feeling victorious after handling the vendor issue, her assistant was standing in the doorway with a pale face and a printed email in her trembling hand. Victoria read it twice before the words made sense. Reed Freight Solutions. Terminated. Effective immediately. She demanded to know who Marcus Reed even was, and when her assistant pulled up his name, the answer hit her like a wall. The quiet man she had screamed at, the one she had ordered out of her own boardroom, owned the very company that handled 70% of her supply chain. The next few days were chaos. Shipments stalled. Warehouses backed up. Holbrook's biggest retail partners began asking pointed questions about delivery delays, and word of what had happened in that boardroom started to spread, first through whispers among employees, then through a leaked internal memo, then finally through a business journalist who smelled a story too good to ignore. The headline that ran 3 days later was brutal and simple: CEO berates vendor, loses $500 million contract in under an hour. Victoria's board called an emergency meeting. Her carefully built image, the fearless, unshakable executive, cracked overnight. Marcus never gave a single interview. He didn't need to. He went home every night to Emma, helped her with her homework, made her favorite pasta on Fridays, and kept running his company with the same quiet dignity that had built it in the first place. When reporters eventually tracked him down outside his office, he gave them only one sentence. He said he had spent years being underestimated, and he had learned that the way you treat people when you think they have nothing is the truest measure of who you are. 2 weeks later, Victoria Hale resigned from Holbrook Industries under pressure from her own board. The woman who once ruled every room with fear found herself sitting alone in an empty office, packing a box of her belongings, replaying that moment in the boardroom over and over, wondering how differently things might have gone if she had simply taken a breath before she pointed her finger. She never got the chance to apologize. Marcus never asked her to. He didn't need her apology. He had already moved on, because people who build their lives on quiet strength rarely need the validation of the people who once tried to tear them down. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you that kindness and quiet strength always outlast cruelty, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Your support means everything to this channel and helps us keep telling stories like Marcus's. And before we go, if you believe that the way we treat others always comes back to us, one way or another, type the word respect in the comments below. Let's fill this space with people who understand that real power was never about how loud you can yell in a boardroom. It was always about how you treat the person who has the least reason to fear you. Marcus Reed never set out to teach Victoria Hale a lesson that day. He simply walked away with his dignity intact, and let the truth do the rest.